on our first international collab with Carrie O'Donnell from Tarot by Lavena. Hi, Carrie. It's nice to see you.
Hi, it's so good to be here.
Okay, I've been looking forward to this all week. I've got all kinds of questions. The first question is why Tarot by Lavena, which is the name of Carrie's YouTube channel.
Yes, and there is a story behind that. This goes way back to when I first started, and I started on Keen.com, and I'm still on Keen.com for personal readings, the psychic chat line. And at that time, when it was first up and coming, basically you had to come up with a name for privacy reasons. And I had a connection to my Irish roots, and I know Lavena was one of the Irish names that had popped up for me. So I was like, Tarot by Lavena, this will be a good name to start. But then as time went by, I wanted to come out more as myself. And I think that's where I am right now. So it's a little confusing. So I'm Carrie O'Donnell from Tarot by Lavena, only because that's how people can find me. I mean, that's the basic reason. But I think that name is going to evolve over time. So stay tuned.
Good, good, good.
Now, I wanted to ask you some questions because I'm still getting to know you as well. And I wanted to know, because I watched some of your channel, great stuff, by the way. I love your Psychic Sundays when you get to do the personal readings for people. And I wanted
That's
to,
lots of fun.
it is lots of fun. And I notice you use so many different tools. Like I saw you use the runes. You have so many different decks, different systems. It sounds like you're a medium, you're into the paranormal. So there just seems to be so much going on in your area. And I wanted to know, how did this all start for you? As far as being psychic, early experiences, like how did you get to where you are today?
Okay, well, it's actually whole life. I started having prophetic dreams as far back as I can remember. When I was 4, they were kind of cartoons, but as I got older, they got more realistic. When I was 12, my mom got me in a Ouija board because she always saw something there. I couldn't touch a thing. I gave it to my little sister.
Same. Same. It's like,
Oh, you gave it yours to the little sister?
my
There's a
mother
whole story
had, well, I
there.
was going to say my mother had one, and for some reason it freaked me out. So I'm not a Ouija board girl.
Me neither. But when I was 15, my mom gave me a deck of tarot cards, and it was the Rider-Waite deck. And I think in the early 70s is when they came out with them, and it
Mm-hmm.
was like a new thing. And I got that, and I got Eden Gray's book,
Oh, yeah.
and I also got the Little White Book by Stuart Kaplan. And I think that the second that I realized that that Little White Book was a pile of crap, and that I should be going to the back of the book, Eden Gray's book. Don't pay attention to the front part. That's Waite's interpretation. But pay attention to the back where she talks about the numerology and the symbology and stuff like that. And as soon as I started studying the back part of that book, the tarot just came alive for me.
Nice.
And everything else is what I picked up along the way. I picked up the playing cards, and when I first started, I read them just like the minor arcana, and then along the way, I picked up psychometry, palmistry. I picked up when I first started reading professionally. People would put out their hands when they saw my
Uh-huh.
card, and I'd go, "Oh, I don't read palms, but," and then whatever would come out of my mouth. So that's how I started reading palms. I read them first, learned the lines after. And yeah, I just keep picking up stuff along the way.
That's awesome. Now, do you do this completely full time? Did you do any other profession that kind of connects to this in any way? Or has it just
Well,
been straight up psychic work?
it's been straight up psychic work, but I've also had to put food on the table. So I've also had a 9 to 5 job. I'm an administrator.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting. I had also had a path that's similar in that, yes, you need to have those jobs to put food on the table.
Mm.
Absolutely. But for me, it ended up going into education. So I ended up being a school teacher when I was younger for high school English. But I feel like it's all connected because to me, reading literature and interpreting literature is it's all symbols. Like you start to trace symbols, you start to infer what is not said. And I feel like that's just so similar to reading the cards. So I found that connection there. So that's part of my story.
Yes, and I've noticed that in your readings. Carrie's readings are really insightful, and she's really careful about how she puts everything together. But it is really like listening to your favorite English teacher.
And that would be me. But yeah, I kind of, maybe that's just, some people might be irritated by that because I feel like I need to explain the cards. I've had clients who'd be like, don't tell me about the cards. I want to know the answer. I'm like, all right, here's the answer. But I feel like you need to see the whole context the way I'm seeing it. That's just my personal view. Because I know when I'm reading the cards, some symbols just pop out for me. And that might not be the same for you, for example. I think we create our own symbol dictionary as we evolve. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I have a friend who's also a reader, Eva, and we used to read each other's cards. We'd meet together on Saturday mornings, and part of it, we'd read each other's cards. And we finally had to come up with a rule between the two of us because our perspective on the tarot was so different that we were reading over each other. So the rule was, when I'm reading you, you can't look at the cards.
Yes. And it's true. I'll even on YouTube, people will be like, that's not what the card means. Like they'll just go off. And you're just
I
like,
do that all the time.
yeah. And it's like, but that's okay. Like you might have a certain meaning for the card. It could even be the traditional meaning for the card. But sometimes in a certain question or a certain context, I might, like something else might pop into my head that's related to the card. So I always tell people to stay open.
Oh yeah, yeah. Isn't the cards mean something different every single time.
Hmm. Now, can I ask you one more question?
Of course.
You had actually talked about psychic junkies, and you had mentioned, maybe that's something that we need to talk more about. Believe it or not,
Yeah.
that's actually something that is concerning for me as well. But I just wanted to get your take on psychic junkies and maybe some warnings if you happen to be one.
Absolutely. When you read the tarot cards, it's like consulting a roadmap. You wouldn't go through your whole life with a roadmap in front of your face because you'd run into a wall or a post or fall into a ditch or something. So you'll get these psychic junkies, and they will go to a number of readers, and they'll want to read every week, or they'll call afterwards and, can you clarify this, can you clarify that. It's never enough. That's why we call them junkies.
Mhm.
And the way I control it is, I advise my people that they have got to let at least 3 phases of the moon pass before they get another reading.
Agreed. Agreed.
And if you have 2 or 3 psychics, if you get the advice of one psychic, and you're out spending your grocery money getting a second advice and a third advice, you might have a problem there. It can get really addictive, because it's easier than making up your own mind and your own decision and looking at what's in the road ahead. But
Mhm.
what you do is you get this tunnel vision where every reading you get is only dealing with the next 15 minutes of your life.
Right. And I will say, working the psychic chat lines, you get a lot of that. And there's a real moral dilemma because you had mentioned, there is a point where I have to do some work with people. This is my chosen means, so I can literally put food on the table. So you have that sort of weighing on you. But on the other hand, there have been clients where I feel like we need a break. Like you can't call me anymore. We can't answer the same question over and over every single day. I had some clients who would call me more than twice in a day to ask the same question. And I think you're absolutely right. You need, to me, it's about control. And you can't control the situation. You have to relax and let the universe work through you. The higher power work through you. When you're so, when's it going to happen, or I need to make it happen, I think you actually are blocking energy. That's my take on it.
I think you are absolutely right.
Yeah. Now,
You
when
know,
was the last time you got a psychic reading?
me?
Yeah, you
Oh
personally.
my goodness. It's been a long time. I really I really don't. Every now and then, I'll read the tarot cards for myself. I think I may have done a little reading for myself a couple weeks ago, but as far as going out and having somebody do a reading for me, it's usually when I meet up with one of my friends and we exchange readings.
Right. And I'm the same way. I actually, and I will use myself as an example for some of my clients. I might get a reading once every 5 years, even. And again, it might be from someone I really trust, or I'm at a crossroads and I feel, and sometimes you just can't read for yourself. You're too close to the situation and you might get some advice. But in that way, I think readings can be helpful if you just do it once in a while.
Absolutely. You're so right there.
Yeah.
I found that sometimes with some clients, I'll actually just say, I go into a trance when I do my readings. I do not remember. And, I have been known to absolutely tell people no.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to tell them a number of times.
Yes. And I've had some where I've had to cut them off completely because they wouldn't listen. And it breaks my heart sometimes, but maybe it's a form of tough love. When you feel like someone has kind of crossed your boundaries in some way psychically, sometimes you need to do that. But luckily for me, that's a very rare thing. I'd have to say most people I read for are wonderful. They totally get it. And you can really have a nice, deep, meaningful reading with them.
Oh yeah, I love my clients. I have some of the best clients.
Yes, absolutely. Same here.
Yes, and I want to share a story. Usually at the end of the year, this time of year, I'll tell my husband what I see as far as the last little bit of winter. I've got a good sense of the last little bit of winter, and I think it was last week, maybe even earlier this week. I could, it feels like winter's all done, but it's kind of like just got a vision of snow on the daffodils. So
Uh-oh.
I told my husband I saw snow on the daffodils. Well, this morning, it's been mild weather, and the weatherman's predicting mild weather as far as the eye can see. But when you're in the 40s, you don't think, of snow. And so when I did my meditation, I was in front of a window. And this morning I was kind of doubting myself because I'm saying I'm crazy to see snow. It's not happening. So when I opened my eyes for my meditation right from the window, and I see it's kind of a message from my guide, the first thing I see is snow.
Oh, no. Uh,
So, well, your guides have funny ways of getting across their message to
right.
you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure you've got some stories about that too.
As far as the guides,
Yes.
I receive information, like I know it's my guides and my angels, but it's interesting because I receive information where it just pops into my head, sometimes clairvoyantly, but it's so interesting because I don't even want to say things like, well, my guides are telling me this, because I don't know, I just know something. So,
Yeah,
and
that
that's
would be the
it. And I know
clairsentient.
I know that must be them, but I don't know. It's about labels. Sometimes I don't even know how to label something like that. But yeah, usually it has to do with me getting in my head is where I get the funny images. When I get caught up in my mind and how can I solve a problem? And usually it's about some sort of solution opening up in a way that makes me laugh, because I can almost hear them laughing at me like, silly girl, why didn't you just wait and get out of your own way? And so I get experiences like that a lot. That's my
Yeah.
downfall.
Now, I want to ask you about your first love, because I noticed that on your YouTube channel, you list yourself as being an astrology and a Reiki practitioner first. So I want to know a little bit about your journey. Where'd you start out?
No, I have to check that, because if it says astrology, because I know I'm under the astrology and tarot label for Facebook and such, so I might be marketed that way, but honestly, I know nothing about astrology.
Oh,
So
dear.
astrology, I know. So I think I'm in a category when, you're kind of compiled on social media. I will say, though, that is something I am really learning about right now, is astrology. It is my new interest. So I'm starting the process of reading more, of trying to learn more about it. How can I integrate that into my readings? So I'm hoping in the next 5 years that could be something that's part of my practice. The Reiki, though, goes way back. I am a Reiki practitioner, but only to level 2. I never became a master because for some reason I just didn't feel it was necessary for me, that I had gone as far as I needed to go with it. I wouldn't bill myself as an energy healer, but I know I'm a healer, if that makes sense. So for me, I feel like it's more emotional healing. So I feel even when I was a teacher, I would always connect, and I almost felt like it was my role to heal whatever they were going through in an emotional sense, and then kick them into play. Like my job was to like, go that way. Okay, you need to go that way. Fine. So I think that is my role. And yeah, so I don't use Reiki in a traditional sense anymore. I think I just use it as a way to be more in touch with my clients in an emotional level.
I know that my producer practices Reiki, and I've been working on doing like a crystal healing. And when I first was doing it, because I knew that I should be able to feel the aura, and I knew it should have a watery kind of feel to it, and I was having a hard time actually feeling the aura, which I think stopped me from knowing where to put the crystals. But then I had Ollie take the crystals and Reiki them. Oh my God. Awesome. It's just absolutely awesome. Oh yeah.
Now, do you do any crystal grids for people or anything like that?
No, I just lay it out on their body.
Isn't that funny? Because that's how I am with crystals as well. Again, I would not bill myself as someone where that's my expertise. But I also feel like with crystals, I have some sort of intuitive knowing of how to use them or how to set them up. I have no idea if I'm doing something correctly or not. I could never teach a class on it. I could never explain what the heck I was doing. But it just seems to work.
It does. And if you do it right, it's like it's totally relaxing. And you can tell it balances the people out.
Exactly. And I'll even use it when I'm reading. Somehow it helps me I think it helps me to relax sometimes if I can use the crystals with my cards, which is kind of interesting. See, I wish that someone could just explain what I was doing. I just do things. And I think that's been my whole experience. I'm here, I just do it, and that's it. So no one's really taught me. It's all self-taught.
And that's how a lot of us are. I've taken one class. Yeah, just the one class on psychic development with joy, and everything else has been self-taught.
Yeah.
The runes were the hardest, because with the runes, there was a set of runes I fell in love with, right? So I bought the runes, I took them home, and I made the mistake of getting Ray Buckland's book, which is, kind of bubblegum. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. And the runes are definitely not bubblegum. And so the first thing they told me was I had my head up my keister. And I wasn't even sure of the message. I go, are you sure? And I pull again, same message. And so I went back to the Mystic Curio the next day, which was the bookstore where I bought it. And I told the lady behind the counter what had happened with the runes. And she just started laughing at me, but she directed me to a different guidebook to learn the runes. And that was Freya Answar's. Okay. And she wasn't afraid to be a little bit dark. Right. And that book just opened up volumes for me.
Right. Now, that kind of makes me think of another question for you, because I just saw your last Sunday video where you did a reading for someone and they had asked for a positive news, and something that maybe wasn't so positive came up in the reading. And you had even said, like, I'm usually very positive and stuff, but, sometimes we have to deal with things. And you had a really nice way of, focusing on the positive aspect of the reading. How else do you usually like deal with darker things that might come through for you, especially when you're dealing with clients?
Well, I always kind of get the bad news out first.
Yeah.
So if I get cards in a spread that are really barking out, things like the devil and the nine of swords, the ten of swords, I not only look at the card, but I ask myself, why does this person need to know this, especially if it's about illness or death?
Right.
Because in that question, I find a way to give a person a positive redirect or an optimistic way to look at the future, because optimism is a great way to get through some of life's hardships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's I almost feel like there's a difference between dark and challenges, because the challenges are, I think, things that we know are coming up that are not fun, and we might pick up on that as psychics. And yes, you have to say, hey, this thing is coming, but how can you prepare for this? How are you going to get through this? And a lot of times it's just helping us to deal with our own stuff that we need to work on. But then there's the real dark energy, which I don't tap into at all. I mean, I stay, and I've even read for some people where you start the reading and you're like, whoa, like you can just feel something different. Luckily, that doesn't cross my path. I do a lot of protection work and so forth. So I don't really deal with dark, if that makes sense. But challenges, I think, is something we all have to deal with.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.